the only way that two separate things can become one is for a complete surrender of everything we have into the common unit of the marriage. In other words, when we get married, everything I have, everything that I come into the marriage with, it is no longer mine, but now it is ours, and everything previously that I individually owned and administrated, now we own it together and we administrate it together. That is how oneness occurs in the marriage. Anything that I will not give up or surrender for the marriage has the potential of harming the marriage seriously or destroying the marriage. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, when people come in, typically there's a marriage and then children, and those children are biological children. But when there's a step family, there are children and then a marriage. And when you bring children in from a previous marriage, even though there's a biological parent somewhere else, you have to give ownership of your children to your spouse, and you have to take ownership of your non-biological children, or it never works. I've done a lot of marriage counseling, and a lot of the marriage counseling that I've done is with blended families or step families, and over this issue right here. And I remember sitting with a couple, and this was a precious woman and a great guy, and she had children from a previous marriage, and they were terrorizing him because they didn't want him to get married. They were very resentful day one. Children, you know, they're very loyal to their biological parent, and these kids came into the marriage disrespecting him, taunting him, doing everything they could. And it's wise for the biological parent to do the disciplining. That's just wisdom. But the non-biological parent has to have ownership and has to be able to speak into those kids equally about the discipline, about the values, about the spirit of the home. And they can't be allowed to disrespect the non-biological parent. In other words, there has to be ownership. Both of the parents, biological and non-biological, have to take ownership and share the ownership of those children. And I remember having a conversation with this gal, and her kids were just terrorizing him, and he said, I love her and I love her kids. But they know I have no authority. They know they can get away with anything. And she said, well, I just feel so conflicted because they've been through so much, and I just don't want them to go through anymore. And I looked at her and I said, I understand what you're going through. I've never been there, but I understand it's painful for you, but I want you to listen to me. This will never work. This will never work. It won't work in this marriage or the next marriage or the next. It'll never work. You have to give him ownership of these kids. He has to have an equal ability to speak into the life of these kids. Now, she looked at me and said, I won't. They divorced. I mean, it was just, they were at the end of the line anyway. They divorced. Let me say this. Man or woman, if you will not trust the person that you're marrying with your children, what in the world are you doing? If you're marrying someone that doesn't have the character to be trusted with your children, you mean you're trusting them with your life? You can't do that. When you get married, everything that I have, the two shall become one. One. That means everything that we have is shared in this marriage. There's no such thing as mine any longer. These are our children. These are our in-laws. This is our money. The other thing to break the spirit of possession is the fear of your spouse being out of control. And just make this briefly. When any spouse is out of control in an area, the other spouse will typically try to gain control in that area to balance out the relationship. If you think your spouse is out of control in the area of money, you typically will try to get control of the money to make up for what your spouse isn't doing over here. If you think that your spouse is out of control in the area of sexuality, you'll go to the other extreme to try to gain control. If destructive behavior is actually taking place, I mean true destructive behavior, then sometimes you have to go to, great lengths to make sure. You have to stand up, you have to use tough love, you have to protect your marriage and protect your family and protect your spouse. Other than those times, you can't take possession of anything. You have to share the money, share the decisions, share everything in the relationship. Possession communicates value. When I give you everything I have, it means I value you enough. If I won't give you what I have, it means I don't value you. Possession conquers or creates jealousy. This issue, I talked to you about legitimate jealousy. Giving everything you have to your spouse keeps any jealousy from the relationship. Because listen, everything I've got belongs to you. Everything I have is a part of you. You can speak into anything in my life. I have nothing in my life apart from you. Nothing. Karen and I share everything in our lives, and that's why we have a good marriage and we get along. Possession creates intimacy. This is where intimacy comes from. Now I want you to listen to this scripture, because this is a profound scripture. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, beginning with verse 3. Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Now I want you to listen to this. Is that when you get married, you lose authority over your own body sexually. Now, this isn't a license for abuse. This doesn't mean that someone can make you do something against the Bible or against something that you don't want to do. But here's what it does mean. It means when you get married, you have lost the right to use your body as a weapon or a bargaining chip or against your spouse in some way and just say, well, I don't want to meet your sexual needs. The Apostle Paul says when you get married, you give authority of your own body away to your spouse for the purpose of their sexual needs being met. So I want you to listen to me. This is so profound, it even affects our own bodies. What destroys marriages is, this is my body, this is my money, these are my kids, it's my job, it's my vacation, these are my friends, and I'm going to do anything that I want to do. And this is the spirit of our nation today. This is why relationships aren't doing so well. The spirit of covenant marriage is the spirit of giving, not the spirit of taking. It's not the spirit of independence, it's the spirit of interdependence.
Thank you for joining us. Partner with Marriage Today and receive the Marriage on the Rock series on CD or DVD. Follow your interests and get social by connecting with Jimmy and Karen and the Ministry of Marriage Today on Twitter. Marriage Today's latest book, Happy Happy Love, will supercharge your marriage with practical tips, wisdom, and inspiration for every stage of marriage. Visit happylovebook.com. Become a rock-solid partner today and equip yourself with the tools you need for a successful marriage. $14, $28, or $56 per month. Choose the partnership level that's right for you. Become a rock-solid partner today.